Oh my God, this is the most evil thread. Okay, maybe the most evil thread is a little bit of an exaggeration. There's definitely worse out there, but oh my God, my level of puke is pretty high. I hate everything about this. Our Reddit stories today are going to be about relationships. Our first one is titled, Am I the a-hole for hiding my boyfriend's blanket? I, 23 years old, have been with my boyfriend, 24 years old, for 8 months. We've been living together for the past month and it's been going great besides one weird issue that has recently been bugging me. For a little backstory, my boyfriend has a blanket which his dad gave him when he was a child. And ever since we started dating, I noticed that he's very close to this blanket, but it's a lot more extreme once I started living with him and seeing him all the time besides when he's working. He takes his blanket everywhere. When we cuddle on the couch or bed, in the kitchen, sometimes in the car when we go on road trips. There's times when he would cuddle with this blanket over me, and it's been bugging me. After he gets off work and comes home, he will go straight and get the blanket from the bedroom. I tried talking to him about this and he told me that I'm taking it too personally and it shouldn't even be an issue. He was at work yesterday and I decided to hide his blanket in the back of the closet to see if he notices me or the blanket first. Well, he came home and noticed his blanket is missing. He asked me what happened to it and I said I'm not sure and that I'm upset he didn't even say hi to me first. He ignored me and frantically tried looking for it everywhere. And I told him, is it even that big of an issue? And it's just a blanket. He became suspicious and asked me where it was. I gave up and ended up telling him that it's in the closet and I put it there to see if he would notice the blanket before me. We got into an argument and he said that a blanket shouldn't make me insecure and he doesn't trust me now. He told me to leave. I left and now I'm at my sister's house and have been here since last night. My sister's husband thinks I'm the a-hole and that it's silly of me to get mad over this. I think it's deeper than that, but I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Now, the funny thing about this, honestly, is that I kind of get where she's coming from. I do think it's a little bit strange for grown adult men, but also grown adult people in general, to have this idea of a comfort object. I understand having some kind of sentimental attachment to an object, really caring about it because it reminds you of something, for example, it was gifted to you by your dad. But I think that if you need it with you at all times when you're not working in order to function, that probably says there's something a little bit iffy about you. There's something a bit wrong. I don't think it's healthy. I think this level of obsession is not good. And I kind of understand where she's coming from. And she's like, come on, this is strange, right? This is strange. So I get where she's coming from. That said, she totally decided to deal with it like an a-hole. So she is definitely wrong in this situation. She 100% picked a fight over it. She knows that it's not just a blanket to him. She knows that he's really attached to it. She knows that it's a really important blanket to him for whatever reason that she doesn't understand. It does say that she's tried to talk to him about it before and it hasn't worked out. And he says that she's taking it too personally. My assumption is that she went up to him and was like, hey, why are you so attached to this blanket? Can we just get rid of it? Like, what's wrong with it? Also, this part where she's like that he would choose to cuddle with the blanket over her does sound like there are some hurt feelings there, but that is weird. That is weird that people would choose to go for a blanket over a person. Like, I already find it strange if people who would pick their dogs over people, that is people that they care about. But a blanket over a person is a little bit dodgy. So yes, he's weird, but she was 100% picking a fight. She could have just sat down and said, hey, maybe you can tell me a little bit about the blanket. Why are you so attached to it? Try like approach it with an open mind, try to understand where he's coming from. And then if you think, hey, the way that you're attached to it is still not that great, like I think it's a little bit unhealthy, then you can still have that as a conversation. One example, to use a completely different example would be, for example, a child who is attached to their teddy bear when it comes to bedtime and they can't sleep without the teddy bear. As a child, we'll kind of say, yeah, okay, that's fine. When you're 3 years old, 4 years old, that's normal. It's normal to need a prop to fall asleep. But if you're 10 years old, it's already a bit iffy. If you're 15 years old, it's really strange. And if you're a 20-year-old man, then I think the majority of people will be like, that's not normal. There's something wrong here. And so if your attachment to an object is stopping you from being able to live the rest of your life, though it sounds like even when he goes on road trips, he needs it with him. Can he actually manage like a holiday without it? If you're that attached to an object, then that's not healthy. And you can talk about that, but you don't need to be a dick about it. Everything when she went, oh, it's just a blanket. Is it really that big of an issue? Like she was picking a fight. This is completely a sign of insecurity. Yes, it does sound a lot like she's a bit jealous of the blanket. And that's not a good look either. Like you don't need to be like that when it comes to dealing with problems like this. You can deal with them in a very different way. The next one, my boyfriend hasn't told his parents about our son. Me, 29 years old, and my boyfriend, 26 years old, had our son in November of 2022, and he still hasn't told his family. When I first became pregnant in February, I told him he could take his time telling them, since this was unexpected. At around 6 months of my pregnancy, I got into a fight with him about how long he was taking to tell them. We ended up not talking for over a month. At one point, I was going to go and tell them myself, but my dad told me that it would ruin me and my boyfriend's relationship, so I decided not to. They know we're dating, and I have met his parents a few times. I like his family, and I don't think they have any problems with me. I know his mother would love being with her grandson, and he's now over 3 months old. He has an older brother as well, and none of them know. I don't think he told his friends either. I haven't been with my boyfriend too long. I've known him now for about 4 years, and we've been dating for almost 2 years. He helped me so much through my pregnancy, and at one point I had lost my job, and he helped me pay for everything. He still helps financially with the baby and comes over every week and plans out date nights. We also talk almost every night on the phone. He was really sweet when I first told him I was pregnant. He left work early, came to my place, told me he loved me for the first time. I'm just confused and I don't know how to go about this anymore. I asked him why he hasn't done it yet so many times, and he always says he's waiting for the right moment. Oh, he isn't that close with his parents, even though they live together. Just wanted to vent this out. I ended up finding a job better than the one I lost, and I'm in a supportive environment, so I get plenty of help and don't have worries about taking care of my son. I'm the primary caregiver as well, and I think I'm doing a good job. I'm being very patient with my boyfriend, but it's getting to the point where I want to break up with him. Our son is perfect. He's the cutest baby. I know everyone says that about their kid, but trust me, my kid could be on a Huggies box and he is the picture of health. I have asked my boyfriend if he wants to be in his life, and he has said yes. But how could I take someone like this seriously or even trust them? You're keeping your son a secret from your family. What kinds of secrets will you keep from me if you're capable of doing this to your own blood? Now, there is so much here that kind of comes through. You have to read a little bit between the lines. But what's very clear is that, say, OP is 29 years old and the dad, the boyfriend, is 26 years old. That is old enough that if you're going to have a baby together, I would kind of expect you to at minimum move in together. So it's dodgy that he, as a 26-year-old man, is still living with his parents, despite the fact that he clearly seems to have a job because he was able to support her financially. So as far as she's concerned, he's living with his parents, despite the fact that he has a job. And she still thinks that this relationship is all good and great, and she thinks that he's a super supportive dad. The fact that at no point during the pregnancy or after the pregnancy were they like, okay, you know what, we're raising a child together now, maybe he should move in. That's a giant red flag to me. Like, that seems very strange for a relationship to be on pretty good terms, but you're not interested in sharing the child actually properly. I'm a little bit like, really, I don't get it. And so if I were OP, I would say, yeah, it's a huge red flag that he's not telling his family. She also says that she has met the parents before, and she says that they've been together for 2 years now, and the parents know that they're dating. But if the parents don't know about the pregnancy and she now has a 3-month-old baby, then she probably hasn't seen the parents for, I'd say, about like 10 months minimum, because that's around when you would start showing. And it would be obvious that you're pregnant. So it's been a pretty long time since she's met them. All of which is to say, he's definitely lying. My assumption would be that he has a second girlfriend, that he has a second wife, that there's something going on there, that there's some reason that he's keeping her hidden. And yes, OP is very, very, very right to go, this is not normal. Now, I don't quite understand, like she says they got into such a huge fight about it when she was 6 months pregnant that they didn't speak for a whole month. Like, that's pretty much relationship ending levels of fighting, right? It kind of blows my mind that they managed to save the relationship after not speaking to each other for a month. So I don't know, that at no point he came up to her and was like, well, you know, the reason that I don't want to tell them is this and this and this. And yeah, I'm dragging my feet. It's just that there's something wrong. There's something wrong here. I would probably break up with him, because I would say that there is enough, like that's enough of a red flag that I'm like, nah, this isn't normal. I would be 100% convinced that he is at minimum cheating. If not, already has a whole other family with kids and everything else, because it's not normal to try and hide someone to this extent. What's really funny about this case is it's one of those perfect threads that explains to me why a lot of people are very much pro marriage before, you know, moving in with someone or before having kids with someone, because this is the kind of problem that you wouldn't really have so often from the marriage side of things. But yes, one of the comments here that I thought was really interesting, this person says, maybe it's not your baby that he's worried about, but his parents towards the baby. Maybe it's protection to your son. Maybe there's something else that he's anxious about and he doesn't want your child to be subjected to it. My in-laws are narcissists and don't show up even to our son's first birthday because they're inconvenienced by the date or time. Now, yeah, even like the idea of my in-laws are narcissists and they wouldn't even show up to the first birthday, and that's your measurement of, oh my god, okay, I can't tell these people. Now, if they're harmful for some reason, if they're abusive, if you want to go no contact with them, but then you wouldn't be living still in their house, right? So at minimum, he's probably lying about that. So I think that perspective of like, oh, there are all these other reasons that it could be, nah, there's definitely something wrong here. OP, I would get the hell out. Like, I think that this is dodgy enough. And I say this as someone who's really pro-family. I do not believe that you should break up relationships very lightly or very easily when you have kids involved. You should be very, very, very certain about what you're doing. But that he at no point seems to have any good explanation for this says that he's doing something very wrong. And there are some people in the comments who will say that their exes were cheating the whole time in their relationship, and that's why they tried to keep them apart from their family to this extent. Like, this is an extent that's like, I would not choose it. The next one is titled, what should I, 40-year-old male, say when my wife, 36 years old, doesn't make sense? TLDR, sometimes my wife of 10 plus years says stuff that just doesn't make sense and blames me for not understanding. How do I respond? Example, me. Man, our friend is really hardworking. He made it all the way to being a store manager. Pretty impressive. Her. Yeah, well, his Myers-Briggs personality is the protagonist, so. Me. Oh, I'm not sure the connection there. Like, how is he the protagonist? Her. Visibly annoyed and confused. You know, the main character, the central person in the story, more annoyed. You don't understand? I've tried explaining the gaps in what she's saying. I've tried suggesting what might fill them. Oh, you mean like, but it seems to always backfire. Either I don't get it right and she gets more annoyed, or she just gets annoyed I'm trying to fix what she said, saying something like, I meant what I said. I honestly don't really care about conversational minutia, but I would be happy if she would just say like, oh yeah, I guess that's not a clear connection, and move on. But she acts like I have some kind of interpersonal deficiency for not following her tenuous connections, or ironically, caring to figure out what she might have meant. I don't think it's just me. I've seen other people confused by her leaps in logic, and she seems equally unconcerned towards them, as though they're missing the big picture by being confused. I've been trying for years to get her to go to counseling, so no hope there. Also open to all of you saying it's just me. Any tips? Could use anything at this point. Just want to be able to converse with her casually and it's not and have it not get weird. Now he did do an edit and an update, so I'll read that afterwards. But just to take this at face value, this is a conflict that happens in my marriage quite often, actually. I am very much that person. I'll be thinking about something and then immediately I will say something out loud that's related to the thing that I was thinking. And my husband will turn around and be like, I have no clue what you're talking about. I think that this is pretty normal. I don't think that this is totally out there. There are a lot of people here who will talk about her being neurodivergent and she's like maybe autistic. She has a different way of thinking and she doesn't understand that people don't follow the same thought process that she has. Okay, you can give it whatever kinds of excuses or reasons that you want. I'm not neurodivergent. I think it's pretty normal to just have leaps of logic that other people can't follow. Now, in a normal conversational setting, if someone turns around and says, I have no idea what you mean, then it's kind of also fine to just, you know, you explain yourself a little bit and then you move on. So it's weird to me that she reacts with this level of annoyance and it becomes an argument and then it explodes. And like this particular conversation is so minor and so banal and so trivial that this should not be the thing that you argue about. Like, I know a lot of people will have dumb arguments about stupid things, but this is a level where I'm like, come on, you're both old enough that you should be able to talk to each other about things like this without this level of annoyance. Now, you can see a lot of people give him advice about just like nodding her away or just saying, yeah, sure. And I don't think that that's good either. Honestly, I think you should maybe sit down with each other and just have a conversation. You can say, hey, look, I don't know how to respond when you say things that I can't follow. What would you like me to say? And then she can tell you, okay, these are the types of responses that I would appreciate. He says that, you know, she's trying to make him feel dumb and he's trying to make her feel dumb. She gives him the impression that he has some kind of deficiency, that he can't follow what she's thinking. And he's trying to push her into counseling because she thinks, I think they're both completely insane. You don't need to go this far. You can just really sit down, talk to each other and say, we both have this habit of communicating about this one thing in this way, and we need to change it. What can we do to change it? And then you do that together. Like, he's 40 years old and she's 36. Come on, that's not asking for a lot. So I think this is pretty normal and pretty reasonable. Now, you can see here some more of the details that he added to this post afterwards. He says, I meant she won't go to couples counseling. I have wanted to get a professional's perspective on our communication for years. I've started going to therapy myself for various other reasons, which I found helpful, but our communication issues haven't improved much. I kind of expected my therapist to say that I have a personality disorder or that I'm on the spectrum because of the communication difficulties I have in my marriage, but he's insisted neither of those are true. As far as those going after either of our intelligence or desire to seem intelligent, I really don't think either are a factor. We're both very intelligent. I work in an intellectually demanding area of STEM, and she has a graduate degree. Not that those are proofs of intelligence, but just to try to paint a picture. I don't feel either of us is in intellectual competition with the other. I found a great majority of the comments very helpful. It's fascinating to read such different perspectives, including the ones that are critical of me. I'm honestly just trying to figure out what's going wrong because I love my wife and I want to have a happy marriage, even if it's just me that needs to change. I have a feeling this is a pretty complicated issue, and there may be a lot of right if differing opinions here. Even though you don't know me and can't hear my tone, I was already pretty taken aback by how people thought I quoted myself as asking was, well, accusatory or harsh. I'm seriously considering that, and I'm going to try to more deliberately to choose more gentle phrasing. There's a bit of a ring of truth with things she's expressed on feeling too questioned to that point. And then he talks about Myers-Briggs, and it's fine. Like, honestly, I think he's overdoing it. And I think people fixate on these things as well. Like, when he says, oh, I'm not sure the connection there. Like, how is he the protagonist? That's a pretty, like, you can just have that as a genuine question. It does not need to be that one person is in the wrong or in the right. You can see some of the comments from the others. This one I thought was really interesting. This person says, I mean, I understand it, like referring to the conversation that he had there as an example. And one person replies, yeah, I totally understand it. If you look at some of OP's responses to comments here, it feels a lot like he's less intelligent than his wife. He doesn't understand and instead wants to blame her. Neurodivergent, psychotic, scattered mind. Come on, he's gaslighting her because he feels inferior. And I'm like, no, okay. People just go completely insane and take it very personally on different people's behalf. And I think a lot of it is projection. Honestly, just at face value, when you read it, it's like, yeah, sometimes you have dumb conflicts in a marriage, in a relationship, whenever you're dealing with someone for a long period of time. Sometimes you feel like, hey, this is a really stupid thing to be arguing about. If you have a repeated problem where you're like, I just don't understand her, then it's completely fine to just sit down and talk about this. It doesn't need to be a big whole thing. It doesn't need to be about him trying to push whatever on her. He says that he thought that he would have a personality disorder. Like, you don't need to have a disorder to suck at communicating, you know? So yeah. People here are completely over the top and take it very personally. And I think that's because it's the type of problem that a lot of people have experienced, because sometimes you just say things and other people don't understand them the way that you expect them to. So if I were OP, I would honestly talk to her about it and to try to get on the same page, that she at least understands there's no intention from your side when it comes to making her feel dumb or to making her feel stupid or like you don't know what she's talking about. A lot of people will say that people get defensive if you question them and you ask them to explain what they mean when they don't actually know what they mean and they're just saying things for the sake of it, and then they realize they can't justify what they're saying, so then they get pissy. I understand that might happen about an emotionally fraught topic like feminism or something, where you might be feeling called out if you can't properly justify your opinions or your perspectives. And a lot of people associate quite a lot of their identity with that. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it. Fine, fair enough. But this type of thing, I don't think Myers-Briggs is quite that, and comparing Myers-Briggs to a friend of yours, like it's not that. So OP, just sit down and have a conversation with her about how to handle it. You don't need to go to the internet to ask for advice when it's about her and it's about how she responds to you and about how you talk to each other. The next one is from the childfree subreddit. Every girl I try to date wants to have children after marriage, and I do not know if I should just lie or keep getting rejected. What is this madness of wanting to have children so badly? I do not understand. As a child, I was fortunate enough to have an aunt who owned a preschool for small children, and over the years, I have seen thousands of children. I made a decision at the age of 17, and now I'm 28, that I would never want to have children. However, this decision has left me lonely, as every girl I try to date says they want children after marriage. What is this madness about wanting to have children? Why cannot they see that life is better, more peaceful, and all the wonderful benefits that come with living a child-free life? At the age of 28, I am now wondering if I should just lie and live a married life where my future wife will live an unhappy one, or well, I don't know what to do. I do not want to live a life of having to wake up in the middle of the night to a crying baby or deal with school, and well, we all know the disadvantages. What should I do about this? I hate the idea of lying in a marriage because I believe that being honest is important when you're spending the rest of your life with someone else. Oh my God, this is the most evil thread. Okay, maybe the most evil thread is a little bit of an exaggeration. There's definitely worse out there, but oh my God, my level of puke is pretty high. I hate everything about this. I understand just even the way that he talks about the desire to have kids, like it's the abnormal one. So generally speaking, you have to understand that every single person that has ever existed in the history of your family line, every single ancestor you've ever had, has chosen to have kids, or has had kids. And the majority, the vast majority of people want to have kids. Now, I'm not knocking people who choose not to have kids. I love this idea of I've seen thousands of children, so I'm making a very conscious, an informed decision. I know what kids are like. Yeah, okay, whatever. Fine if you don't want to have kids for yourself. Fine if you want to be in a relationship with someone else who doesn't want to have kids. These are, your personal choices. You can do whatever you want. But to knock other people and to judge other women for wanting to have kids when you're the person who's really out there, you're a bit selfish. You're a bit selfish. That already says to me, maybe this is part of why women are not connecting with you, because there are a whole bunch of women out there who do not want to have kids. And so if women aren't connecting with you because you're this selfish, then I kind of understand it. I love this idea of why can't they see that life is better, more peaceful? What is this madness about wanting to have children? Just, oh my God, no. Okay, so for a lot of people out there in the world, having kids gives them a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning and a sense of joy and a depth of joy that they would never get anywhere near experiencing without children. Now, I know we'll be doing a bunch of episodes about the child-free subreddit. I know a lot of the reasons that people choose not to have children. And it's like I said, it's fine if you choose not to, but you have to understand that it's an inherently selfish choice. There is something about having kids that makes you actually grow up, that makes you understand that there's a bigger purpose in life, that your needs are not the center of the universe, because now you have to take care of a child and the child's needs supersede your own in every single other direction and every area of your life. This is a lesson that you can only learn from having a child. If you treat having children with the right amount of respect and gravity that it needs, then you can become a wildly better person in every way imaginable. And not only do you become better, but then you also get to see you nourish a new life, and you can watch it grow, and you can see what kind of impact that life can have on the world. And that's hugely joyful and amazing. And there's so much that goes into having kids. And like I said, it's totally fine for you to choose not to, but then to try and take a woman who does want to have that experience and to lie to her, to make her waste her prime and most fertile years on a marriage with you because you don't want to be lonely, just makes you a horrendous human being. So you're just a terrible human being. You're a terrible person. That you even sat down and had this thought, like, maybe I should just pretend that I want to have kids. And then when she does actually want to have kids, they'll just be like, nah, I don't want to do that. That makes you evil. That makes you evil because you want to go out of your way to steal a dream that someone else has from them, without them choosing to have that done. So yeah, completely terrible. Thankfully, quite a lot of people here also are like, no, you have to choose not to have kids, and this is not the answer. Here's an example. One person says here, lying won't help apart from the morality aspect of it. The consequences of lying to get in the relationship will end up appearing sooner or later, which can result in the relationship ending. I don't have a solution to help with dating. We all knew about this huge unfortunate downside when we signed up for the child-free life. The only thing I can suggest is working hard to become the best version of yourself. That way you can increase your chances of getting into child-free relationships, or maybe a non-child-free person, a fence sitter or an apathetic person, might jump the fence if they think you're worth it. Best of luck. Something to me about trying to find someone who's like maybe a fence sitter, like maybe they're like, I like the idea of kids, maybe, but not that much. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit worried about whether I'll be a good parent. Like it's a pretty normal concern. And then being like, yeah, well, I'll try and find that kind of person and then make the decision for them because they like me enough. Just there is something about trying to push your decision to not have kids on other people that just makes you a terrible human being. And so, no, obviously, a marriage that is built on a foundation of lies will never survive. Like that's a terrible starting point for a marriage. And if I got together with a person who wanted to not have kids, and then I found out about this choice afterwards when they knew, and I was super upfront about it, hey, having kids is non-negotiable for me. They knew from the beginning, and we still ended up in a relationship because they lied to me, then the depth, like I would feel so betrayed and so angry and so resentful at that person. Like I don't understand how you could live with yourself just having this thought. So don't do this kind of shit to people. It's really not cool. Our last one is titled Needing Some Clarity. My boyfriend, 37 years old, of 3 years, packed up his stuff and left me, 27 years old, 3 days ago. Our relationship has been rocky for the last year and a half because I moved 1 hour away to a new city to start medical school. He always promised wherever I ended up, he would come with me, but changed his mind just a couple of weeks before our move-in date. It was soul-shattering and totally out of the blue, like a light switch flipped. Then for the next 1.5 years, he promised just about every month that he would move in, but always had excuses when the time came. Prior to this, we were extremely close and in love and practically lived together already, seeing each other, sleeping at each other's houses every day. We were best friends. I truly thought that he was my soulmate and we'd get married. We initially planned on being together throughout my medical school and then moving out west somewhere for residency where we both ultimately want to be. Almost all of his excuses for why he could not move in with me revolved around climbing, skiing, etc. He wanted me to move to Colorado in order to have the ability to climb more often. He travels pretty frequently and I've always been incredibly supportive when he wants to go on trips, but he said that wasn't enough time. He didn't want to get a 9-to-5 job. He's currently bartending weekends, due to that limiting his flexibility for climbing. I knew it would never work if we did long distance because he's terrible with planning and texting or calling when he's away. In addition to this, while we've been living in separate cities for the past 1.5 years, I only really saw him on average 2 days a week, normally a Tuesday, Wednesday or a Wednesday, Thursday, due to his bartending schedule, which is from Friday to Sunday, and him wanting to do things with his friends the other days of the week. But of course, the only free time I have is on the weekends due to my school schedule, so hardly ever got any time with him. He would always wait to show up until pretty late at night when he arrived and leave first thing in the morning on the day he was leaving, so usually I'd get less than 48 hours a week with him, which it felt like most of was spent in class or sleeping. It got to the point where I just wasn't really feeling like a priority or like he wanted to spend time with me. He promised an innumerable amount of time to look for jobs that would allow him to have weekends off to spend with me and allow us to take the next step and live together, but he never did. The second to last straw was when I set a final boundary after almost 2 years of this and told him he needed to either actually completely move in. He had some random stuff and clothes here, but not much, by February 1st, or I give up and I'm not waiting on him anymore. He then scheduled a vacation to Colorado for 2 weeks, getting back February 3rd, which of course I had to be understanding of, but then he chose not to see me the weekend he got back, so I drove the 1 hour instead to break up with him. But I'm a pushover and fell for the fake promises again because I guess I just so badly wanted to believe them. Well, 3 days ago, after hardly seeing him at all this month, he came to see me for 1 day. And during that day, he just pouted the whole time about how he wanted to go kickboxing, but the gym here isn't good enough. I was upset because it was our one day together, and instead of being loving and happy to spend time with me, he was moping about a recreational activity again. I told him I felt like I was never going to be enough for him. He packed up all his stuff in an hour and left, and I haven't heard from him since. Despite all of this, I am beside myself with him leaving. I feel like a cannonball was blasted through my chest, or like my soul was ripped out of my body, and he just seems fine. I'm still madly in love with him and want our future we planned so long ago to still be a reality. I know it all sounds really bad, but he's not a malicious person, and there are many things I deeply love about him. I don't want it to be over, but maybe I just made up a false version of him and our relationship in my head, and that's what I'm latching onto. I don't know. Do you think it's best to just let him go? Are we never going to speak again? It all just seems surreal to me right now. I texted him the night he left and said, I love you and always will. He read it and didn't reply. It just seems cruel and so wrong to end in this manner after everything. Any advice or insight would be helpful. I'm just in an extreme amount of pain and not sure where to go from here. Thank you if you stayed for this long. Oh my God. I don't know what it is with people. Okay, so there is this thing that I think a lot of women seem to do to themselves, where you assume that the behavior that you're seeing from your boyfriend is not actually what that means. Although, you know, maybe people do this across the board because they just don't want to face reality. So, dear OP, you need a reality check. You needed a reality check about 1.5 years ago when he promised that he would move in with you and then he decided not to. And that's a message. That's a message. He was making himself very, very clear. John Deloney from a YouTube channel, you can go check it out. He often says that behavior is a language. And so the way that people act tells you what they think. It tells you what they think way, way, way more than the things that they actually say to you, because people will often say things. Sometimes it's intentional, like they know that they're lying and they'll just say it anyway. Sometimes it's because they don't even know any better. They just say garbage to you. So clearly, this guy from the beginning was not invested in this relationship. He was not invested in this relationship at all. Everything from he was going to move in with you and he decided not to. You wanted him to change his job, or he wanted to look for a different kind of job that would allow him to spend more time with you and he decided not to. When he comes to see you, he comes as late as possible in the day. So, you know, presumably you just hook up and then go to sleep, and then you wake up, go to class, and then he leaves first thing in the morning. He was treating you like a hookup, like someone who was just there for him to do the deed with, and then that was it. He was not at all invested in a relationship. He was not at all invested in spending time with you. If he cared so much about climbing and kickboxing and all of these things, and he still cared about you, then he would at least have looked for opportunities to bring you with him, to take you on board, to go on trips with you, to show you how exciting climbing is. Whatever it is, he would have looked for a way to involve you in his life. He clearly did not involve you in his life in any way, shape, or form. And so I get it, OP, because for whatever reason, you spent 3 years with this guy. So for 3 years, you were waiting for him to be really serious about your relationship and to want to be with you. And I guess you've been with him since you were 24 and now you're 27. Like that's you know, again, prime years. It's so sad to me when women have long-term plans and they really want a relationship that they will probably properly settle into, you know, someone that they'll be with for a good long time, and instead they waste their time on garbage like this. Like this idea of she thought he was her soulmate and that they would get married. He was telling you from the very beginning that he was not interested. And so OP, you really need to keep an eye out for people like this, because this is not cool. You were clearly taken advantage of, but also you allowed him to take advantage of you by holding on and holding on and holding on when he was not at all interested. This is a relationship that you should have ended the moment that it was clear he wasn't really willing to move in with you. And he kept saying this to you and making these promises to you just so that he could have the longest possible period of time where he would be hooking up with you and having that need of his sorted out without needing to find someone else. So I don't know if this is mean OP, but for anyone out there who may or may not be listening to this, you can assume that if a guy actually is interested in staying with you and wants to spend time with you, you'll be able to feel it, you'll be able to sense it, and you'll see it from his reactions and how he deals with you and how much time you spend together and how out of his way he goes in order to spend time with you. And if he's doing the like the literal bare minimum, then you can just be like, okay, you know what? There's no point in wasting any more of my life with this person. you can find someone else who actually is on the same page as you, because he was clearly not. And it's a real dick move from him to have not also just broken up with her. But OP, you know, you have to watch out for yourself. No one else will do that for you. Thanks for listening. Feel free to like the video or subscribe to the channel to get more similar content, and I will see you in the next one.